Miss Nikki in the house.
So we know what we're good at, but we know we're not good at. We spend all of our time.
My family know I've been married for 10 years. I have.
I had changed my life so much in such a short
I've been doing that for 18 to 19 years.
I'm one of those people who I think, I grew up
serving the majority, as far as I can remember, as a kid.
Hey everyone! Yes, I am Chandra, and
allow themselves to be free. Sometimes I do coaching and other things like that, but
dance was my life. Dance is what I knew. Dance is what I breathed.
Honestly, the biggest obstacle I found was the financial obstacle.
It was an amazing job for actors.
All right, welcome to Commit to Change. This is Miss Nikki. Oh, you see who's already here saying hello. But this is Miss Nikki. I am the Jane of all trades, but the master of living. I want to introduce our very special guest that I have the honor of being in her presence today, Miss Kimra Luna.
Hi, yes. Hey everyone. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So if you don't know her, you're about to get to know her right now. If you don't know her, then guess what? You are out the loop. It's time to get in the loop. So she is a personal online branding specialist, strategist. Did I say it correct? I jacked it up again, didn't I?
It's okay.
Okay. Well, she's going to tell you a little bit about herself because I want her. You could say it the best from her, but I'm absolutely honored. So go ahead.
So, hey everyone, I'm Kimra. I'm a personal branding and online business strategist. Sometimes I do coaching and other things like that, but I primarily help people build personal brands. So if someone has some sort of online services they want to provide, or sometimes even if they have in-person business, but they want to incorporate, and build their online sort of things, I work with a lot of people like that. So, and I've been running my online education company for 4 years now, since 2014, which seems like crazy to be running a business for so long. Normally, I'm an Aquarius, so I go with the flow, Normally, I would have been done with this, but, I love what I do so much. We have over 5,000 students who've purchased my courses since then. So it's been a really, really incredible journey over the past year. And I had other businesses before that too, but of course none of them were as good as this one, I guess. They all kind of went, but it's all right.
Hey, you fell to success. That's what they
Exactly.
So I have to ask because I want to be different. Yes. Please tell our audience something that they may have not heard about you on any other podcast or...
Okay, I have a good one. So something you may have never ever heard is that my favorite singer is Mariah Carey.
Oh.
And most people wouldn't think that because I'm punk rock chick with crazy hair and stuff. But as a kid, I was raised in a very abusive home, and my sister and I loved singing. And part of the way that me and her bonded together was through singing. And we used to listen to Mariah Carey cassette tapes all the time, and we would sing together, especially at night. My mom would be, fighting with my brothers or her boyfriend or whoever the hell. And that was a way that me and my sister kind of drowned out the noise. And it was primarily Mariah Carey. So Mariah Carey's always been one of my favorite singers. I know all her songs. And actually recently I had done a tour with Allison Bird, and one of our sales people, Chantel, me and her, we were driving in Texas, and we just had a full-on Mariah Carey marathon, just singing and having a great time on our trip and on our little road trip thing. And she was like, I never would have thought you knew every lyric to all the Mariah Carey songs. And I'm just like, well, that's kind of a thing. And I've had my punk rock friends make fun of me about it for years, but it's just something that always stuck, it's just something that always stuck. So that's something that's very unique. I doubt you've heard that. I don't think I've ever mentioned that on any podcast ever. So it is definitely unique to you guys watching.
All right, yes. So the next question. Can we get a little something?
No.
Okay.
I gotta do some vocal warm-ups. My throat is very raspy because we went to the beach. We went to ride on a bunch of Ferris wheels, and it's so loud. And so I was talking so loud to the kids, like, "Hey, get over here! Don't wander off," you know. And so my voice is really raspy right now. So not today. I haven't really done like public singing really yet. I have one video on my Instagram where I'm singing Adele to my youngest son, my 3-year-old. He loves lullabies for bedtime, and he loves Adele. So I'm always singing that Adele song, "Someone Like You." That's his favorite song. And when he was a little baby, he'd actually cry when I would sing it. He's so like connected to lyrics, and same thing with my 6-year-old. They're both my 3-year-old and 6-year-old are the same way. Like they hear lyrics, and it's like they can just feel the songs, you know, and they start sobbing. My 6-year-old started crying. I introduced him to Queen because I was like, Queen's my favorite bands. So I introduced him to Queen, and he was watching the Bohemian Rhapsody video, and just tears streaming down his face. Like he was just like. He's just like the sound and their voices, and he's just like sobbing. I have videos of it. It's so sweet. But you know, my kids, I guess because I'm so into music, they're very much into that as well. You know, my oldest son, he's 9, and he plays guitar, and every single morning I wake up and he's in his room, I can hear him singing. So his room's like literally right there, and I can hear him every morning when I wake up. And like he's at 7, 8 in the morning, he's just singing and singing and singing, and that's awesome. Yeah. So I'm glad they've gotten that love for music, because I know that music, like I said, it helps you get through like hard times.
Right.
And I think that that's really important for kids to have, you know, positive outlets like that, because you know now they're going through, like me and their dad are separating, you know, so obviously it's great for them to have outlets and things like that they're just for healing, you know. So it's always really good. So yeah.
Wow. Wasn't expecting all that. Well, we're gonna get her next time. I'll get you next time, my pretty.
I know. Everyone's always like, "Kimra, sing for us." I'm like, maybe another time. I do want to start a band, so maybe. So, but the singing wouldn't be the same, I guess, if I was in a band. It wouldn't be Mariah Carey style.
Right.
A little bit different.
Maybe the end of the night special. Or something.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how much I drink. But if I go to karaoke people will hear me sing, and so I have a few pretty good songs I do for karaoke. So yeah,
I love karaoke.
Yeah, karaoke is great. Yeah, it's fun. Maybe next time you're in New York, we'll go to karaoke.
I'm gonna hold her to that.
Yes.
And we're gonna record it. No, we won't record it.
We'll record it. I don't care.
Okay, and there you go. Okay, so you mentioned a few things. For those of you that don't know what cassette tapes are, I suggest you look them up. That's from when we were back in the day. It ages us a little bit. But besides that, that's not important. You mentioned about your husband, and you said that you're separating.
Yeah.
So those of you who know the story, that when you started doing BTBY, just the whole online business, it was initially to help retire your husband. Can you give us just a little bit about that, and then we're gonna...
Yeah, so when I first started like blogging online, I had a mommy blog, and the mommy blog was going really well. I was able to get lots of traffic. I was basically like a Pinterest master for driving traffic to my website, and I wanted to start teaching people how to do this. And I ended up developing Freedom Hackers and BTBY, also known as Be True Brand You. And when I started that business, my whole mission was to retire my husband. He was working a hard labor job as a FedEx driver, lifting boxes all day and driving, and I was just like, I don't know, it's just like I just felt like he deserved something different than that, right? And so that was like my first initial goal, and I was like, okay, he's only making about like $2,300 a month. If I can make that and maybe double that, then you know he can be at home with us. So if I made like $5,000 a month, like he could be at home, he wouldn't have to work and that sort of stuff. And so that was my initial goal. And he ended up being able to be a stay-at-home dad for like 4 years, and so he got to spend a lot of time with the kids that most fathers never get to spend with their kids, you know, and he does really appreciate that. Even though now we are getting separated, he has, you know, thanked me that he got to have so much time with his kids, because, you know, most fathers are working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and a lot of times they don't, you know, get to see how their kids are developing and things like that, you know. And especially my youngest son, you know, he was basically in his there every single day from birth, so that was really my main mission, because I felt like that would give me freedom. Like that was what I was going for. And of course my company's name is Freedom Hackers, which is like hilarious, because everything to me is just like, we want to seek freedom in some sort of way. Every person, whether it's freedom from a relationship they're in, whether it's freedom for money, whether it's time freedom, I have a friend who was working 80 hours a week as a lawyer, and he was just like, no, F that, like he's just like, I need to change. He's like, I'm not seeing my kids, I'm not being able to, even have proper vacations, and so he's like, I just don't want to do that. Like, I need online business, Kimra. Like, how do I do this? And so I feel like the internet has really given people freedom. It allows us to express ourselves the way we want to express ourselves. It allows us to reach out to people all over the world that maybe we never even expected to work with. I mean, I had a student in my program, she's from Iran. And where she lived in Iran was in a very strict tribe type of community, where if women weren't married, they weren't even allowed to step outside of the front door of their house.
Oh, wow.
Until you were married off, and then you can do that. So because she was an adult, they wouldn't even allow her to step outside of her house. And her parents were very generous. They got her a computer, and she was able to go on the internet, even though that was technically not allowed where they lived. Her parents wanted her to have freedoms. They wanted her to have something different. And she ended up starting her online business. She had, I scholarshiped her in my program, and then she ended up in a few other people's programs and stuff too. And eventually she was able to become a really great copywriter. She went to school for like journalism and like learned how to write. And so she was able to move her whole family out of that town that they were in. That was so restrictive to them and her freedom and things like that. And it was like, to me, just being able to help facilitate those sorts of things and seeing what the internet can really give to a person. Someone who lives in a space where they're so restricted, but the internet gives them access to that outside world where they can literally get clients and customers, and that changes their whole entire lifestyle. And I feel like, those are really the things, because I know we were going to talk a bit about just like success and things in general. Like, that to me is what success is. If I can lead someone down a path, even if they only watch 5 minutes of one of my YouTube videos, and that sparks something in their brain, or they're like, wow, I can seek after my dreams. That's when I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in the world, and I think that a lot of people, they just want it to be like, oh, you make money, and that's what a lot of the headlines are of me. They're all like, oh, she was on like welfare 5 years ago, now has a multi-million-dollar company. Like, those are like all the headlines, and those are the things that get the clicks. But those aren't the things that truly matter to me, because to me it's like the money stuff, to me that's just money. Like, I don't live a luxurious life. The most expensive pair of shoes I own are $100, like, I don't drive fancy cars. I drive a Ford Flex, like, I don't live in the most expensive apartment in the penthouse, which I could, but to me that stuff doesn't matter to me. Money is just a result of how much I've been able to give and how many people I've been able to reach. It's a result of that. But I don't feel like it's not really a goal of mine. It's more like, how many lives can I touch? And then if I touch one person's life, does that touch more people's lives? Right. That's what matters. And so I feel like there's so much stuff when people think about business and success and all these things, and everybody always just focuses on the number. And really, that's not something that drives me at all. Yes, I want to be able to pay the bills. I want to be able to, like, my youngest son has autism. I want to pay for his therapy. Of course, I want to pay for those things that my family needs, but it's not like a requirement. My kids don't need the fanciest, smanciest clothes. They don't need, $800 shoes, even though they're 9. And I see people buy that sort of stuff, and I'm like, okay, if you want to buy your kid Louis Vuitton shoes, he's going to grow out of them in 3 months. Like, that's fine, but, those things, they've never mattered to me. I was raised very poor. My mom was a single mom of 5 kids. We were on welfare my entire childhood. And then as an adult, I was on welfare again. And it's just like, being at that, like, so poor at that level where, like, as a kid, my mom couldn't even afford to have the water running. And so I went to school with dirty clothes all the time because we had no clean water to do laundry. Wow. We used to have to go to the neighbor's house to fill up gallon jugs of water to bring them back into our house so we'd have water to drink. you know. And so like being all the way at that level, it made it, material possessions have never had that same meaning, I guess, to other people. Like to me, that doesn't mean success. I don't need to own 20 homes, you know, to have success. To me, I just need to touch people's lives in order to have that. That's really all I need.
Wow. I'm taken back right now. So, okay. So you answered like some of my other questions within this interview, so that's great. Let me add that in there. But I wanna, there's a couple of things you talked about in what you just said. So let me touch base on, let's rewind a little bit and go back concerning the grace that you allowed your husband, and that was your drive for the 4 years. So now that you're separating, and this is a two-part question, how does it affect your business now, and what keeps you going? Like, what is your drive now?
Yeah, so the separation definitely affected my business a lot, and it's kind of one of the downsides to having a personal brand, is because when something major happens in your personal life, it affects your whole business as a whole. It affects the people who are on your team, it affects your audience, because they can feel a different energy from you. They can feel if you're not creating as much content, or you're not putting in, you know, stuff out there and promoting new things. Like they can feel that, you know, and my audience certainly did. And it was actually quite terrifying to make the post about us separating. But I knew I needed to say something, because I didn't want people to see like, you know, me out here in New York City and I'm like going on a date with someone and they're like, wait, that's not her husband, you know, like I didn't want like it to be like some like rumors spreading sort of thing. And so, you know, me and my ex-husband, we worked on a post together to post, which he'd actually never done that with me before. He doesn't even use social media, but I was like, I need to make a post, I need to do something. And he was like, okay, well, let's say something, let's do it very mindfully. And when I made that post, it actually devastated a lot of my audience, because they saw me as like, Kimra's the American dream, you know, like she was like raised by a single mom on welfare, and now she has all this success, and she has a super, you know, hot husband, and like these like, which he is hot. And I've gotten a lot of women just like, you believe in that hot guy? And you know, the super, you know, cute little boys with the long flowy hair, and you know, it's like they saw me as like this like American dream or something, and it just got like completely shattered. I had team members who were sobbing. I had, you know, because I had people on my team for 3-4 years, you know, and they were just like, oh my God, you know, they were just, people were just really freaking out. However, being in that space, which now I'm kind of going a different direction, so you have to remind me of the questions again, but being in that space of like sharing that vulnerability, because that's part of a personal brand. We're really sharing ourselves, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable. If you don't want to be vulnerable, start a software company, you know, or something, you know what I mean? Like, you know, something where you're not gonna have to be sharing your day-to-day life and intimate things that are going on with you. Personal brands, we don't share everything, but we do tend to share a lot of things that other people wouldn't share. But anyways, like sharing that post, you know, it was just so raw. But what happened is it enabled other people to give themselves permission to look at their marriages and to look at what they were going through. And I had women messaging me saying, me and my husband are now going to therapy. I told him if he doesn't go to therapy, we're done. You know, I've had other people that have been like, I've known for 5 years that I should have separated from my husband, and they're ready to go. You know, some people that were just in relationships with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they're just like, you know, like I can't tolerate this anymore, you know? And so me making that post gave people permission for them to look at themselves and say, like, it's like just like a mirror. And some people, they'll see it as like, it'll just trigger them and freak them out. But then other people will take it in as a reflection and be like, okay, this is reflecting something in me. I'm resonating with this for a reason. And then they're able to use that to change their lives. And even though that post has nothing to do with business, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't teaching people, like, here's how you do a Facebook ad, you know? Like, it still was able to transform people's lives. And so I think that that's like just something like that's really, really started to become my goal. Like now, like, you know, like you said, like that first goal was like, okay, retire the husband, be able to have those freedoms. Now my sole goal is to be a great storyteller. so that my stories can inspire millions of people. Like that's all I tell people. I'm just like, my goal is just to be a great storyteller. Like people are just like, oh, what's your goal for the end of the year? Storytell. Like that's it. Like I just want to tell stories because I know that stories are what is going to change the world.
Absolutely.
You know, and yes, my business training can help people change. You know, help them be able, enable them to be able to change the world too, and their personal lives as well. Being able to make more money and have more freedoms and be able to afford to go on vacations. Or some people, they just want to travel 24/7, so they want an online business so they can just go wherever they want to go.
Right.
You know. So being able to help people do that really has turned into the mission now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you answered the questions. It was 2-part.
Yeah.
How did it affect the business?
Oh, so how did it affect the business? So especially leading up to the separation, about 6 months leading up to the separation, I was definitely going through a lot of internal struggles. I had a spiritual coach, we had a relationship coach, we were kind of trying to uncouple our marriage because we knew that it was going to be done, and figuring out what that would look like. I mean, I was terrified of dating because I was just like, oh my god, like I'm a single mom with 3 kids, like who's going to want to date me? Like, especially living in here in New York, it's like people date for like 3 months and then they move in together because it's so expensive. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, no one's gonna want to move in with me like that. You know what I mean? And like be like my partner like that. You know. So there was a lot of fear going into the dating world because I hadn't dated in 12 years. You know, there was a lot of fear of just being alone. Like who am I gonna have to talk to when something bad happens? You know what I mean? Like not having that emotional support. That's probably been the hardest part of the whole thing, is not having that emotional support and then having to find other people to kind of be that emotional support, which something I've actually done with this, so this is kind of a trick for anyone going through like a separation, is like if you know what's already going to happen, prepare some of your closest friends and let them know, like, I'm going to be going through a rough time the next 6 months. Will you have the capacity to be there for me when I'm calling you and crying, when I'm having a rough day? Will you be able to talk me through things and hype me up? Like whatever that is that you need from them before it even happens. Because then they know, like, okay, because sometimes when you're going through that stuff, you're not a really good friend. Because all you're doing is just like kind of taking that energy. And so being able to be open with your friends who are the closest to you, that'll help you maintain your friendships, because you're really going to need those when you don't have your partner that you've had for 10, 12, 15 years. You know, so that was something that I'm glad that I was able to be mindful of, and it actually happened. I actually got that because I had a friend that she started kind of feeling like I was taking, and not being like, well, she's like, well, I'm going through something right now today. I don't want to be going through your stuff too, Kimra. So it affected mostly the emotional stuff, but it also affected my creativity because my ex-husband still owned half the company. Because we've been married for so long. I mean, even if it wasn't even the documents, like he still owned half of it, like because our relationship was so long, according to courts, so it made it difficult for me to create, because I felt like if I created something, he could like chop the corner off and take it for himself. You know what I mean? And so I started getting this very intense fear of loss. I guess is what it was, which you're going to have a fear of loss because like a marriage is ending, or if a family member is going to pass away or whatever. I mean, there's loss, there's grievance going to happen. But this was much more intense because my company was already so big, and it was just like, oh my God, what if I lose this huge thing that I created? You know what I mean? Like, this is like a big deal. There's thousands of students in the programs. Like, what if I'm like not able to even do this company anymore at all? Because there's ways where he could sue me for certain things and be like, oh no, that's my intellectual property. That's my, you know what I mean? So there was this big fear that happened. And luckily my ex-husband isn't a big a-hole, so he like wasn't doing anything like that. But it was still like this fear was like in the back of my mind. And so it did affect my creativity. I wasn't doing a lot of list building, which I think was kind of good. But I wasn't creating a lot of YouTube videos or putting out a lot of content over about almost a year time. I was kind of just relaxing. I needed to just grieve. I mean, like the whole month of December, I basically did nothing. I just hung out with the kids, and I just, like, there was just I just couldn't work. I was like, if I would have been, if there would have been a boss above me in the company, they would have fired me for being lazy. You know what I mean? I'm like not doing anything. But the thing is that's what happens when it's a personal brand. You know, and I've seen it happen before with like big YouTubers and things. You know, they've had big, you know, life changes in their life, and you know, they're not able to create their videos and things like they normally would. They're not able to do their business. They're not able to get on stage for their speaking gigs, or they're getting a lot of anxiety and things like that. And so it's really important to be working on your mindset, be working with therapists and coaches and people that can help you when you're having a rough day. You know, you need all those people, because you can't only rely on your friends, because your friends will just be annoyed by you. Especially because going through something like a divorce, it could be years long process.
Right.
You know, so you want to make sure that you have all those other types of, like, the emotional needs are being met. Yeah.
Wow. So I never thought of the whole concept of asking your friends. We always assume that they're going to be there for us, and I think that's great that you put into you implemented the whole idea of like, will you be able to handle what's about to happen?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause not everybody can.
Even before I get on a phone call, like I had a friend just the other day, like, you know, I was just like, hey, like I'm going through something. Do you have like 5 minutes to talk to me? If not, I'm completely okay with that. And she was like, no, actually, she's like, I'm going through like some other things right now. I think my uncle's about to pass away this week. Like, so, you know, I'm going through a lot of stuff. And I was like, okay, that's great. I wish you the best. I hope everything, you know, goes well for you. I hope everything's okay. Let me know if you need anything. But yeah, I'll call somebody else to dump all my stuff on, you know? And she was like, I'm so thankful that you said that. And, you know, then, you know, after we kind of get through our stuff, we can reconnect again.
Right.
You know? And so it really keeps the relationship good. And I think, you know, we're not taught that sort of stuff in school. You know, we're not even taught how to make friends in school, you know?
Right.
Let alone, like, as adults keeping a friendship. Because, like, for myself, I don't speak with most of my family members. I don't speak with my mom. Most of my brothers I don't speak to. I have one sister and one brother I speak to, and they live across the country.
Wow.
So, like, I don't have family as backup plan. You know what I mean? Other people, if they lose their friends, they have family as backup plan. I don't even have that. You know, so to me, it's like my friendships and those relationships are just so important to me. To me, my friends are my family members. And I think that it's one of those things where we have to remember, like, there has to be good boundaries, though, because emotionally and mentally, people can only handle so much.
Right.
And if maybe they're going through a divorce themselves, maybe they're going through, you know, a family member passing away, and you're sitting there, like, dumping all your stuff on them, and they're like, oh my God, this girl, you know, like, this is just too much, and they're not going to be answering your calls anymore. They're not going to be answering the texts anymore.
Right.
You know? So you can lose friendships really rapidly when you're going through a hard time, which is like the worst time to lose friends.
Right.
But if you are mindful of those boundaries and that space that they need too, because if you go and tell them something traumatic that's happening to you, they're feeling that too, especially if they care about you. They're feeling it also.
Right.
And so you need to know that they also have to process that.
Right.
You know, and especially if you're asking for advice from them, sometimes they're having to like process and think things through, and they really want to help you and support you. So make sure you're being mindful of what you're dumping on people. And if it's something too much, you dump it on a therapist.
Right.
You know, a therapist, that's what they're there for. They're there for the dumping.
Well, okay, so this is a good segue into, first, who was your biggest supporter when you decided to even start a business, and then who's your biggest supporter now?
So my biggest supporter was actually my mother-in-law when it comes to like this current business. So when I was we had just gotten off of welfare. So we were living on welfare at my in-laws' house, and I developed a pretty close relationship with my mother-in-law. She's very much into personal development and spiritual development and stuff, and we just became really close. She was at the birth of all my kids, you know, like by choice, you know, she didn't just barge in like some other mother-in-laws do. You know, like she was there by choice, like, you know, like I just developed a very close relationship with her. And when I first moved across the country to Virginia, where we followed a job for my ex-husband, she was the person who, you know, I called every day and was just like, oh, hey, you know, my blog, I'm blogging about this today, and like things like that. And she was always one of my top supporters, and she still is one of my top supporters now. Even though me and my ex have separated, she still, wants to see me have success, and and obviously, she's with the kids, and she's on the phone with them all day, Skyping, and she Skypes with them like every day. It's a lot of times too. I'm just like, you guys been talking to your Mima for like 2 hours. Like, what are you guys doing? But so she's always been, one of my big supporters. And then especially just through going through like divorce and stuff like that, it's more like coaches and therapists have really been like the core supporters with that, because I need to have my head straight so that I can, be able to put content out into the world.
And change people's
lives.
Yes,
and work on changing people's lives. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So when you first started the business, and then of course to now, because I do have to talk about both, what obstacles did you face, and how did you overcome them, or how are you overcoming them?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of obstacles that I faced. Some of the biggest ones was kind of like just fears of judgment. Like growing up in a really small place in Idaho, it's kind of like if you went out and tried to do something big, everyone was like, oh, you're just like a show off, like, like, why are you doing that? And I guess it's almost like I had to give myself permission to take up some space online. Like, and online space is a big space, but I was like, okay, this little tiny 95-pound person can put a little sliver in there, right? And so I had to like go in and just be like, I have to just do this, like if I want to help people, I have to get on a webinar. If I want to help people, I have to make a video. How else are people going to find me? I have to do something. Because I remember I had like years and years before I started this business, I had a website, and like no one ever came to it. And I was just like, okay, I spent all this time building this website and there's nobody coming to it. Like, now what, So I had to really give myself permission and get past some of those things. And I didn't really have a big like, fear of like failure, I guess, because I've already failed so many times in my life, like it doesn't even matter anymore. I was just like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, like I'm just gonna go hardcore into this, and if it doesn't work, then I'll figure something else out later to do. Like it wasn't like something where I thought like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, if I don't, have success in this particular business, because I already had different businesses in the past, and some of them were actually really, really successful. My first business was actually, I was a booking agent, and I did 6 figures by the time I was about 18 and a half. I'd already done about 6 figures, booking concerts for a living. However, then the economy crashed. So then nobody wanted to go to concerts anymore. So that business kind of just vanished in the thin air. Bye, business. And then I had Etsy shops and all sorts of things, but nothing ever was anything I could really stick to. And I feel it was probably because they weren't things I was so passionate about, And now, because I love my students, and I love too, like with having a personal brand, it transforms with me, and I know, especially recently, I've been, posting a lot of things about like, body shame and other things that have happened to me. I mean, I even made a post like on my Instagram stories that was about like the importance of getting like STI tested, like between partners and things like that. Like, and I had asked on the thing, I said, have people, do you ask your partner if they've been, tested? And like 95% of people said no. And I was just like, this is shocking to me. And I mean, I live in like New York City, so it's like, there is all sorts of stuff going around, so it's really important. And, even like my current partner, like I had told him, I said, I'd just been STI tested. I would love it if you would go. And this was like before our first date. Like I would love it for you to go, like if you haven't been tested recently. And he was just like, oh yeah, I'll go. And he went. Good. And I feel like if anyone is going to be responsible, they will go and do it. And to me, they don't deserve you if they're not going to go and do it. Right. Because it's your health.
Right.
Right. And so, in talking about, it's like having a personal brand, I can talk about those other subjects that have nothing to do with my business, but it's still something I care about. I do think that's so important for women's health, especially, because a lot of men are like, oh, I don't want to use a condom, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you are using that thing. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we need to, as women, sorry, dude. You
don't think we don't do it.
Yeah, we're not going to feel nothing, like, yeah, so it's like, it's time time for us to stand up for our own health.
Absolutely.
You know, and if that means, you know, a guy that you just met on Tinder and Bumble, and you say, hey, when was the last time you were STI tested? When's the last time you got tested for STDs? And they're like, I don't know. Be like, can you please go? And then take a picture and show me the results. Then I'll go on a date with you. And they're just like, and I have done this to multiple men, and every single one of them has went and done it.
See, that's awesome.
So I feel like if we stand up for something, even if it has nothing to do with your business, you're just helping people.
Right.
And so that to me is important. And even though that might feel like, oh, that's off brand for Kimra to talk about STI testing, to me, I'm like, no, it isn't. My whole brand is for people to have freedom.
Right.
Freedom of sexual expression is another part of it, right?
Right,
And if you guys aren't getting STI tested and telling, you know, people results, like, how can you have freedom to express yourself in that
Exactly.
way? You know?
How do you feel like you're giving back to your community? I know you already touched base on that about helping. Maybe.
I mean, I feel like in lots of ways, you know, like I said, it's just me being as real and authentic as I can. Like, that's the way I can serve. And when I posted about me coming out of the closet, which was something that was a very big deal for me, especially when I'm emailing a list with 65,000 people. You know, it's not like, oh, I just like told a few friends. Like, it was like going out into the world, right? And, you know, like, when you post things like that and you share things like that, I like to, you know, incorporate like, hey, please donate to these organizations because these types of things help people that are going through these sorts of problems. You know, like, the more you grow, the more you're able to contribute to the world. Not even just your community, but to the whole world. You know, and I feel like being just authentically you is how you can best contribute.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people might not even think of that as contribution, but when I get random messages from people that are just like, oh my gosh, Kimra, your posts recently have been resonating with me so much. You know, I'm now, you know, going to therapy for this, or I'm now, you know, looking into this sort of thing, or some people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know your son had autism. Like now, like, you know, like it's so great to see that someone could still, you know, work from home when they have a child with special needs. And, you know, so it's like that sort of stuff, just the fact that they can see something about me and them, like that helps them have more power.
And it makes you more relatable.
Yes, and definitely from a business standpoint, yes, it makes me relatable. People want to buy from you more. That's definitely true if they can feel a connection with you. But to me, it's just all about like, man, like if me saying that one sentence helps them go on some sort of path that they need to go on, then that I'm just doing what I'm here to do. You know, and you know, like I had told someone, I really want to become YouTube famous. And it's not because I just want to make like YouTube revenue. Honestly, I don't even need to have ads on my videos. Like I don't care. It's more I want to be able to have the messages that are inside of me out there in the world.
Yes.
You know, and that to me is important. And you know, I'm really into like numerology and stuff. And so I had like a numerology reading, and you know, one big major part of me is a leader, but leading with wisdom.
Yes.
You know, like not just like, oh, I'm just like some leader and like some jerk face. Because you can be a jerk face leader too. They have those. There are some that are just like, you know, there's whole packs of people that are following them, and it's just like, oh, that guy's an a-hole. We won't
message.
Message. We won't name any names. But we will, you know, like there's choice that comes with leadership.
Right.
You know, and you have to make that decision, the type of leader that you're gonna be. And it can be scary to go out there and be like, I'm gonna lead people. Like, oh my gosh, like it can be really scary. And there's been times where, like, you know, I'd make a post about a random pen that I was using, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what pen is that? Where's the link? I'm like, it's just a blue pen I got at Target. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but it's like you start to have this influence, and you have to be very mindful of things.
Right.
And I mean, there's been things, you know, like, I mean, sure you guys have heard about the Logan Paul fiasco, where he like showed videos of a man who had hung himself in Japan in the forest, and Logan Paul has like one of the biggest followings on YouTube there is. And he did something that was just so disrespectful. I mean, just disrespectful isn't even like the word. Like it just, it's so disgraceful what he did. And, you know, he didn't use his leadership role in a positive way. you know? And he has the capacity, because he has millions and millions and millions of views on his channel. And he has the capacity to do such powerful things, but he's used it for things that aren't necessarily helpful.
Right.
You know, and so we have to remember that when we're growing our personal brands, you know, what is that mission that we want to have behind it? Yes, we want to make money. Yes, we want to have personal freedom where we can go on vacations and do the things that we love to do, or buy our mom a house or whatever, you know, people's goals are. But we also there's always an underlying mission, because people are watching you.
People are watching,
Once you never know who's watching you too. Like, I remember before I even had a big following, just when there was like a few hundred people like on my Instagram, there were people just like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by your posts and things like that. And I'm just like, I don't know who you are, but thank you so much for saying that, you know. And I didn't even have a business at that point, you know. And so you never know who is watching you and watching your posts that you're putting on social media. So, you know, I recommend, you know, being on the side of doing good, of course, you know, and doing your best to help people and help the world.
Right. So one of the dynamics of being in business is being able to juggle life with business. And I know as a former single mother, I know how difficult it is to juggle life as a single mother, and then the dynamic of the shift to becoming a businesswoman or entrepreneur is a little different than going from being married with the business to shifting into being a single mom. So can you with the business, can you tell us a little bit about that shift that happened there with?
Yeah, and it's definitely a lot different. Like, I feel like if I would have started out as a single mother, it would have been a lot harder of a journey. I do definitely know that. Because, you know, my ex-husband, he was cheering me on, you know what I mean? Like, he was just like, hells yeah, you know, high five, you know, you know, like, so it was great to have someone that was like, you know, literally by my side cheering me on. But I know now, like, with being a single mother, it's kind of different, because my business had already had success like before. And the thing is though, now I'm spending much more on nannies, you know, like I'm like, okay, the nannies are having to stay the night sometimes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have work I need to finish. You know, he's not playing any role in the company anymore. Like, he was handling a lot of like paying the bills and stuff. I had to learn how to pay bills, you know, like, you know, like I was just like, okay, can you make me a list of when every bill is due, you know, like, so I know like when things go out, you know. And I had to hire a CFO to help me, because now, you know, so it's changed business expenses as well, because I had to hire other people to help me. So that was like a big change that happened, and I'm very lucky that I've been able to have, you know, nannies and other people, because if I didn't have nannies, I wouldn't be able to run my business, period, you know. And so that's why I always tell like moms, I'm like, you know, put your kid in school, put them in daycare a few days a week, like do what you need to, or even have a nanny who comes into the house while you're still at the house. You're working on your computer doing work, like bring somebody over. You know, ask a family member to be like, oh, hey, can you watch the kids for the weekend, do a sleepover, and, you know, then use that time to crank out stuff for your business. You know, like, you have to just make time for yourself, you know, and it can be hard, especially if you don't have very nice friends and family members, which I do know some single moms where I'm just like, oh my, like, they're like, you know, like, my mom won't even watch the kids for an hour, you know, like, I know people that are like that, where their families just don't give support. And so I definitely recommend, like, finding ways to carve out time. There was actually one of my friends, she had a gym membership, and for the gym membership, she was able to put her daughter in the daycare area for up to 3 hours a day. So she would go to the gym with her laptop instead of actually working out.
Oh, wow.
She would put the daughter in the daycare for those 3 hours, and she could go and check on her and stuff like that. And she would work on her computer doing her business for 3 hours a day.
See, that's fantastic.
And it was way cheaper than the actual daycare, because the actual daycare would have been like $600 a week or something, and the gym membership was only like $120 a month.
Yeah.
So that's like a Jedi Ninja trick. But I thought that it was just so clever, because she found a way, and I really believe that if anybody wants to have a successful business, they're gonna find a way to do it. You know, it's like I was on welfare as an adult for 4 years with 2 kids. You know, and that really can hurt you mentally. You know, my second son was born, and I was just feeling like a loser.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm on welfare, I don't even have a job, and I have this second baby in my hands, I don't even have clothes to put on him. You know, I'm just like, I can't even afford diapers.
Mm-hmm.
I had to use cloth diapers because I couldn't even afford diapers. You know, I potty trained my kids from birth because I didn't have money to do diapering.
Wow.
You know, so it's like, when going from like being in that space, it can be so tough, and working on our mental stuff is some of the hardest stuff to work on.
Right.
But as mothers, to me, it's even more important because sometimes we don't have that emotional support. We don't have those people, and so our brain and our mind, it's a muscle, and we got to be working it out.
Right.
Every day. And so it's important to journal, take that time to meditate, take that time to have quiet time. I mean, a lot of times just a shower is quiet time for me.
Yeah.
You know, but I put on a timer for like 20 minutes. I tell my kids, I was like, do not bother me for 20 minutes. Like, you know, like
they don't understand that anyway.
Yeah, they don't. But I have found if you give them cookies, they'll just sit and chomp on cookies and it's like, here's a pile of cookies. Like, leave me alone. And you know,
organic cookies.
Yeah, organic cookies. Yeah, we do like the organic vegan
sugarless
cookies.
Organic cookies.
I found these cookie doughs that are like paleo and vegan, like little cookie dough bites. So I think I might give them those, but they're really expensive. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be worth it.
It's expensive to be healthy.
I'm like, why you want to be healthy? Let's like being healthy. It's like 5 times as much. Like, what the heck? But anyways, you know, sometimes I gotta bribe them to keep them chill just so I can have that 20 minutes.
Right.
You know, on days like I don't have my nannies with me, I'm just like, oh, geez. You know what I mean? But I mean, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just like go to Target and I'll just like do work like on my phone and just let them run around with all the toys. You know, like, because I'm just like, oh, I need to catch up on some posts. So I get the kids in the car, I go to the Target down the street, and I'm just like sitting there just like like writing posts like on my phone and stuff, and they're just running in circles playing with all toys. You know, like, I don't care, and especially if it's on a hot day and they don't want to go at the playground, you know. So I also do a lot of stuff when I'm at the park with them too. So they're at the park playing, I'm just like, you know, I'm writing a post or whatever, like, you know, I gotta get stuff done, or like I'm reading through copy or editing something, like, you gotta get stuff done, you know, you just gotta make it work. And it's been really interesting over the past year and a few months now, with my ex-husband like not living with us, like having, because I'm like, man, I would have had time to do this, you know, like, because I could have just been like, oh, go over there with your dad or whatever, you know, and now it's like, and it's made me more mindful of like what is working in the business too, because I have to schedule everything. So it's like if I want to film videos, it's like, okay, this is exactly the time my nanny's gonna be here, this is the chunk of time I'm gonna film the videos, like I just know, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I know if I slack that whole day and then the nanny leaves at 6 o'clock, what am I gonna do after 6 o'clock, you know? And then it's like, oh crap, you know, like my whole day is wasted basically, you know? I don't want to be wasting days. But yeah, it's made me more mindful of my time in my business, which is a really good thing. So I think there's actually an advantage of being a single mom and having to coordinate things, because you're like, okay, what's going to bring me money to my business? What sort of post do I need to make today that's going to lead people to get on my email list? What sort of video do I need to make today that's going to get people to want to work with me? So it makes you a lot more direct with the work you're doing.
Yes.
So I find like being a single mom is kind of like a super strength when it comes to a business. Like it's extra muscles, which I don't have any muscles, but extra muscles, you know, to do it. Like you have to coordinate. I mean, even like with dating, you have to coordinate so many things. I'm just like, okay, my nannies are here this night, and this night. If you ask me on a spontaneous date, it might happen, but don't be disappointed if it doesn't. You know, like, so, and I actually had one guy who I went on a date with him. He had been messaging me on Bumble for about a week or so, and he really wanted to go on a date with me. And I was like, oh, well, I might be able to go on a date, but I'm gonna have to find like a nanny for that night or whatever. And after the date, and he was really sweet, he was really wonderful. After the date, he actually sent me money on Venmo to help me pay for the nanny. I was like, you're very, very sweet. I mean, too bad I didn't really want to date the guy, but I thought it was a very, very nice gesture.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, there ain't no other guys doing that for me, but I mean, I guess that's what makes it hard dating as a single mom, is because it's like you have to coordinate. But some of the single moms, though, think it's actually really cool when they have 50-50 custody, because when the dad has the kids for like 3 nights a week, that's when they can go on dates. They're like, oh, I'm going out dancing. I'm like, I thought like you are a single mom. They're like, oh yeah, like I got time. Like he takes the kids 3 days a week. I was just like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you're running a business and they take the kids 3 days a week, you best be working on your business on those days.
Work.
And then you go out dancing late, but like during the day you should be working.
You should be working, right? So how do you measure your success exactly? I mean, I know
it's hard to measure, really. I mean, if I think about it, but I mean, I guess the best would be just that my kids are happy and content, and they're enjoying their lives. That I'm happy and content and happy with my friendships and relationships that I have. And then, just on like the bigger level, the fact that, I can inspire others. And if those emails stop, then I know I'm doing something wrong. If the emails from people saying like, oh my God, Kimra, thank you so much for sharing that. If those stop, then that means that like something's messed up, like something's not going right. But if I can keep those continuous flow of those people sending me thank you emails, like then I know that's I'm doing
You're on the right path.
I'm on the right path, exactly.
So we talked about, you said you're not a person into name brand, and you're not, the biggest thing is like $100.
Yeah, the most expensive things I own are my Doc Marten boots.
Okay.
And I wear a brand called TUKs, and they have these shoes called Creepers. You've probably seen them. Miley Cyrus wears them. But they're only like $100. Like, so it's like, I don't want any fancy nothing.
So she said earlier that the headlines when it comes to her is about the money and about the shift financially she's made. So I have to ask, like, we already know money is not the issue, not trying to buy a boat or all that stuff. So do you have any guilty pleasures? Do you like take advantage of having?
I do have an addiction to crystals. I do buy a lot of crystals, but I've stopped.
That's with an S.
Yeah, crystals. Yeah, crystals. Not the drug crystal, but yeah, crystals, because I'm woo woo and I love it's like I gotta have my amethyst like in my rose quartz all over the house. I mean, even inside of like our water purifier, we have a Berkey filter. I put like crystals in there, so it's like infused with crystals. So I love crystals. Another thing is I really love Walking Dead, and like the TV show, the zombies and everything. And they had a video game on the iPhone, and I started to develop an addiction to this game. And I ended up spending like over $500 in the game itself. And I mean, there's people that spend way more than me.
Right.
I've met people, like I have a friend who has spent over $20,000.
Oh my God.
Not exaggerating that number
I'm in
at
the
all.
wrong business.
Yeah, so anyways, he has a game addiction. So anyways, I'm playing this Walking Dead game, and they get you in like these guilds, which is like, like a group of other people. So you're like playing online like with other people, like on this thing, right? And the thing is you want the best weapons, you want the best ammo, like you want like all the best things. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll spend another like $20. And then after a while, like my ex-husband, he's just like, what are all these things racking up on the Apple store, like, what are all these $20 purchases that are happening? I was just like, I'm playing, Walking Dead game or whatever. He's like, you better watch out. He's like, and sure enough, like it finally got to like $500, and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like I just gotta delete it. Like I told all the guys in my guild, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just feel like I'm just gonna go down a really, really bad place by spending money on this video game. So it wasn't Candy Crush, but what the heck? Oh, it must have been over. It must have been the computer was ringing. Okay. Anyways, I thought we turned the computers off. But anyways, I did start to feel like that addiction. And I mean, there are certain things I will splurge on, like if I really want like a guitar, like I'll make sure I get a pretty nice guitar. I won't buy the most expensive one, but I'll make sure I get nice things. I want my kids to have nice shoes, I mean, but I'll still buy them clothes at Target, you know, like I don't need to go to some fancy place to get them things, because honestly they don't even care. They're just like, as long as it looks cute, they don't care. You know, so I don't really have very much other things than that. I mean, I do like, you know, eating out with friends. So sometimes I do, you know, splurge, and I'll just be like, hey, everyone come out with me. And if my friend's like, oh, I'm broke, that's all right, I'll pay for everybody, just come. You know, like I just want to have, you know, a night out. So I will do that sort of thing, but yeah, it's like I don't really have major, like, you know, I don't have like a handbag addiction or anything like that. I have a few friends that have handbag addictions, and it's real bad. I'm like, you spent more on those handbags than like some people have spent on a house, you know, like that's just too much. Like, but they want to do it, they want to do it, you know. And for me though. I'm trying to save up to buy a brownstone.
There you go.
So, which brownstones are really expensive, but
yes.
I think I might just wait till the market crashes. So I'll just keep saving my money. Then when the market crashes, then I'll buy a brownstone.
Okay.
Then I'll save more money.
That's the plan. Hey,
you know.
So being that you are a very successful online business strategist, I know I didn't say it the whole title. But and you're big on with social media.
Yeah.
Has it gotten to the point where you're like reached star or celebrity status that when you're out and about, people are like, "Oh my God, that's her."
People do recognize me when I go out.
Okay.
But it's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it's kind of cool because they're just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I love this thing that you did, blah blah, and that's like really great. But then sometimes it's like kind of weird where they're just like, oh my God, I have to take a picture, and they're like, I'm like, y'all need to chill, like, you know, like tone it down just a little bit. Because one time a person like came up and approached me, and it scared my kids because they didn't know who the person was, and my son started screaming, my 3-year-old, because he's, like I said, he has autism, so he didn't know who this stranger was that was just coming up to us. So sometimes it's not a fun thing, but also because I like to because I'm really into like learning about like sexuality and all these things, and so I like to take classes on that sort of stuff. But I've had people recognize me at classes, and so it like embarrasses me, and stuff like that. So there's pros and cons of like being popular, and in New York I do have a pretty large following in the New York area, but yeah, sometimes it's not fun. And so like I really wanted to go to like this one thing the other day that was like talking about like pornography and like, you know, how some people become addicted to it, what's the balance, all these sorts of things, because, you know, my kids are boys, you know, and like I'm like, okay, like I want to be able to have a discussion with them, but I was like too embarrassed to go to the class because I saw people on the Facebook thing that were like Facebook friends of friends and stuff like that, and so I was just like, I can't go, you know what I mean, because I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I would get like, and like, even though I'm pretty vocal about things online, I feel like it's just kind of weirder if you're like in a class in an intimate environment and then I'm sharing intimate things.
Right.
Like I don't even like group coach therapy. Like I don't like group coaching really.
Right.
Like I like it more private. So I guess if you're a private person, it can be a little conflicting. And like even my boyfriend, like he, you know, he works with like a lot of celebrities and things like that, and he doesn't have any social media accounts. He keeps everything like super private. Like he's just like that. And my ex-husband, same way, like didn't even use like social media.
Wow.
Like some people just really need that privacy, and it can get hard, you know. Like me, I like being on social media and stuff, but sometimes when I'm like in person, I'm just like, I'm just hanging out with my kids at the park, you know, like go away, you know. Like, you know, so it depends on the day. Also depends on my mood. If I'm in a certain mood, or if I'm like by myself or something, I'm like, oh hey, whatever. But it's kind of harder when the kids are with me because they're like, who is this random stranger coming up to us, you know. They don't like that too much.
Okay.
So, but they want their own YouTube channel, so I was just like, well, just wait, then you guys are going to be the famous ones.
Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oprah would be one place. I at least want her to know who I am. I mean, I don't need to be on Oprah, but I really hope she knows of me.
So we're putting that out in the universe.
Yes. So anybody got the Oprah hookup, like hit it up. But I really want to be doing a lot more speaking from stage, and not necessarily talking about business. Like I kind of get bored talking about business from stage now. I was like, I've already been doing it for 4 years. I'm just like, okay, that's boring now. I want to be working a lot with teenage girls. Teenage girls is like a very big passion of mine because I feel like we can get so lost in our teenage years.
Yes.
And I feel if teenage girls had mentors and people that can guide them, people that they can trust, because a lot of times by the time you're a teenager, you already don't trust a lot of your family even at that point. And so I really want to be working a lot with teenage girls. I do go to some of the schools here in the city, and I talk to I talk to different girls, like groups. Typically, it'll be like the girls who, maybe have gotten in a little bit of trouble or things like that. But I do like to share my story with them, because I do know, like, a lot of them, they're growing up on welfare, they're growing up in abusive homes, and I want to show them, that you can choose your life.
Right.
Like, you get to make that decision, and
Right.
only you can make that decision. And I think that, a lot of because I plan on having a few books coming out over the next few years, I really hope that my books will resonate with the teenage crowd and younger adult women crowd, because I feel like that's like a prime time where, there's so much that they can do,
Right.
There's so many opportunities now.
Right.
And a lot of times when you don't see them,
You don't take advantage.
or you don't see your value in yourself,
Right.
you don't take advantage of those things that are there for us.
Right.
And I feel like the next generations of women are going to have so much more freedoms.
Right.
And just generation after generation is getting more and more freedom, and they need to see that power that they can have, and the power is there for their taking. They're just
Right.
not taking it. And
Right.
so, but anyways, so that's kind of like a passion sort of project for me. I do plan on having a few other businesses. I would like to open a cannabis company.
Oh, nice.
So that's something that's really close to my heart, because, a lot of mothers, particularly single mothers, have, opioid addictions. They're the number one people that die of opioid overdoses is mothers. And I feel if, women can change to something that is more natural to give them that stress relief that they need, then there's going to be a lot less of those sorts of addictions and things like that. So that's something that's really on my heart. And so I have several other businesses I want to own. I mean, I want to own like a roller skating rink. I want to own a venue, like a concert house. I want to own a bar. I want to own a vegan pizza place. I want to own a vegan coffee shop. Because can you believe in Brooklyn there's no vegan coffee shops? I'm like, that's like hipsterville. Like, come on. Like, so
Well,
anyways.
you're putting it out there. I don't know.
I know.
You better jump on this.
I know. Well, I don't care as long as I get the coffee, But anyways, I really feel that I have so many more businesses inside of me. I'm going to be helping my kids build their businesses as well, because they're starting their YouTube channels. And so it's like I'm always just going to have so many things. I'm always going to be moving, And I think that's just who I am. It's always just moving and flowing and moving and flowing and following the paths of, like I have my new blog, Sacred Mama, coming out, and I don't even know how I'm going to monetize that. Like, don't have like a particular plan or what I'm going to sell with that. But it's just stories about, myself and the path I'm on as a single mother, and all the stuff I've learned, through my kids, and breaking cycles of violence. That's, such a huge important topic that, a lot of parenting books don't talk about. Like, you read a parenting book and it doesn't say like, oh, if you, like, it doesn't have a section that's like, if you were raised in an abusive home, read this. Like there's nothing that's to support parents that have experienced a lot of trauma as kids, and then we end up passing that trauma onto our kids and keep passing it and keep passing it.
Right.
And I've been able to break that cycle of violence. I'm able to raise my kids in a peaceful environment, and I want to be able to show others that as well.
Right.
So I just have basically all of these things. So over the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be interesting. So anybody that's on my email list, you will see a lot of transformations happening. And I made a post a few months ago that was just like, I really like how Madonna transformed with like every album. I feel like that's kind of how I'm gonna be. It's like it's almost time for the new album to drop, So so I'm excited about that. I really want to own a roller skating rink so bad. So it'll be out somewhere in Jersey somewhere, or maybe Long Island or something. I don't know, but I really want to own a roller skating rink and a movie theater that plays old movies but has vegan food available.
Nice.
So people can actually have some healthy options too,
Right.
but also have a veggie dog, which isn't necessarily
For
particularly
$10.
healthy.
Like they.
I know, $10 at the.
I was like, how much is the hot dog? I
Yeah.
was like, okay, we're not eating anything.
Yeah. We'll eat something when we leave. Yeah. So I say that to my kids all the time. We'll eat before we go.
Right, because I was floored the last time. I was like, oh my gosh, how much?
Yeah, taking your kids to the movie theaters costs like, I mean, just with like all three of my kids, if we actually bought snacks, it's gonna be like $80 to $100.
Like, what's an amusement park?
Yeah. It's like we could go to Coney Island and go on all the rides for $100.
Right,
you know?
right.
Like, yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give, or tips and advice would you give to someone who is sitting on the fence of, of their dreams?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on what's holding them back, but most people are held back by thinking about what others are going to think about them if they take that leap. Like that's by far the most common thing that I hear. Like, oh, what's my husband gonna think about me? What's his family gonna think about me? What's my cousin gonna think about me? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like when you walk down the street, people are judging you, and you're so worried about them judging you.
Right.
Honestly, they should be the ones being supportive of you.
Right.
So why don't you talk to them, sit down with them, and be like, hey, I really want to do this. Can I get your support in this? If they say no, screw them. Don't talk to them anymore. Go find somebody else to talk to. You know, like I really feel like we just need to surround ourselves with amazing people who are going to support us and uplift us no matter what we want to do.
Right.
You know, maybe it is a career change. You know, it's like I could tell you right now, like, no, I'm stopping my whole business. I'm going to become an actress. You know, and I would have enough people saying, all right, Kimra, go for it. I'll support you. You know, so if you need to surround yourself with those people so you can make that leap, because it's very difficult to make a leap when you don't have those other people surrounding you. And I did have to
find mentors.
Yes, or find mentors, or find coaches, or somebody who's going to be supporting you and saying, yes, like you can go down this path, like let's do this together. You know, and I'm really lucky I live in New York City area because you kind of pick anything because it's so easy to find mentors here. Like, hey, like you do this, hey, I'll shadow you. You know, I'll work in your office so I can kind of stalk and see what you're doing. You know, they're like, okay, sure, whatever. You know, so which is one of the reasons why I love living here for my kids, because I know whatever path they choose, they can find it and things like that. So I'm normally a mountain girl because I'm from Idaho, so I'm like all about the mountains. Like, give me some snow in the mountains and a cabin and some hot cocoa. Like, I'm all about that. But I'm a city person because of the opportunities that it gives to my children and to myself, and it's just so fabulous to live in a place where I'm so close with so many amazing contacts. And now my kids, my oldest two, they're just about to start acting classes, and it just makes me so happy because I'm just like, oh, I know people who like work on TV sets, like this would be great. Like we can get them some gigs. It's gonna be so fun. But yeah, so the next 5 years are gonna be very interesting for me, and especially my oldest son, he'll be a teenager by then, So it's like, man, like things are. I don't know. It's kind of like the journey, wherever the kids take me, I guess, is going to be part of it. You know, my 6-year-old, he really wants to be on the show Stranger Things. Like, that's his, like, goal. He's, like, dreaming about it every day. And so I'm like, I don't know, we might have to move to where they film Stranger Things, Like, so who knows what's going to happen for us, you know what I mean?
All right, well, the time is for our lightning round. I'm going to get my trusty iPhone out, and we are going to go over our lightning round questions. Dun, 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 dun. Dun.
We need to add some music.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need some lightning round music. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, I'm going to ask some more questions. Okay, so, dun, dun, dun. Before you started your business, what initially held you back, if anything? Would have made you hold you back from going into making your business, I should say?
Not having a lot of friends. I was very lonely. I lived in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, and so I didn't really have anybody, like, besides just my husband. And so I was so lonely. And the thing is that it was kind of a blessing and a curse, because the loneliness made me seek out everybody online, right? So it was like, if I would have started like an in-person business, I don't think I would have had success in it, because I'd have been so lonely. But like starting online, I was like making friends online, and then I was able to do it.
Okay. But that didn't hold you back, though?
It did for a while. It did for a while. It did for several years.
Not having friends is what held you back.
Not having friends for like a long time, yeah. Like that did hold me back a long time. But it was finally once I made some friends and I was able to move forward.
Okay. What is the best advice you've ever received?
I've gotten some pretty good advice, but I made a post the other day from a friend who, this is all about body image sort of stuff, but I got some advice from a guy who was one of my friends. We were at this business dinner, and he was kind of like flirting with me a little bit, but we were just like talking, and he had asked me, he's like, why, like, even when you come to like dinner parties or things like this, like, you don't really dress like sexier, you know? And I was just like, that seems like a weird question, but I was just like, well, I've kind of been raised my whole life to think like dressing cute is what you're supposed to do, like, you know, like moms aren't really supposed to be sexy, like, you know, I'm from Idaho, like, you're supposed to be like modest, you know? And he was like, well, you're really sexy, so you should like dress and like own it, you know? And I was just like, that's very interesting. But it was very close to the time I was separating from my ex-husband, and even with my marriage, even if I went on dates, I didn't dress sexy. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, you know, like, I'm a grown woman, like, you know, like, I should have some sexy clothes. So then what I did is I ended up throwing out all my clothes that weren't sexy, and then only keeping the ones that were. So I was like, if this is not like, you know, like, people are gonna be like, damn, you look hot in that, like, I don't want to wear it. So it totally transformed everything for me, though. It totally, you know, made me feel way more confident in my body. I feel it's like I just needed someone to say that to me. Just be like, you're hot, like, own it, like, just do it, you know? I was just like, okay, you know, and now, like, he has, like, a girlfriend or whatever, so I was like, never mind, you know, but anyways, because I made a post about it, and I was like, I wish I could tag him, but I don't think his girlfriend would like that, you know, but, you know, like, I feel like that was really good advice, even though it wasn't necessarily business advice or something. It was just good life advice, and I think it was because I needed to hear it at that time.
Right.
You know, because it was at the time where, like, the separation I knew was happening, and I was, like, getting into the dating world. It was like I needed someone to just be like, you're sexy, you know? Like, I needed it at that moment, and I have texted him and thanked him for that before, but he was just like, oh, okay, I didn't even remember I said that, but, you know, like, I was like, yeah. We had too many drinks.
The impact, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, share a personal habit that contributes to your success.
Journaling, definitely. I mentioned that earlier. I have a stack of journals. One is a rage journal, which a lot of people don't talk about rage journals, so I think I need to do like a whole blog post on them. Yes. But it's basically when you are feeling the most upset, you have a journal that you just literally rage in. We're just like, oh, F this person, I hope they fall off a bridge and die, and like, you know, like, I mean, like, literally whatever comes out. Because oftentimes we just need that release, and then we're like, you know what, that wasn't that big of a deal anyway. Like, I mean, it's like crazy. You can just like flip your mind in like a second. So, and the thing is that I actually started doing that when I was a teenager. I had these like rage journals, and I remember my mom found one time, and she thought that I was like mentally deranged or something. But I was just like, well, I needed to let these things out of me, you know? And my mom wouldn't even let me go to therapy because, you know, obviously I would tell them all the abuse that she was doing to us, so she didn't allow us to go to therapy. And so that was like it was just a natural thing I just did. It was like these rage journals. So anyways, I'll do a whole series about rage journals.
I think we need to
but then I have a gratitude journal that I write in every day. I have a manifestation journal, and then I actually have a separate journal that's a relationship journal. So I write about, you know, relationships with my friends, people I want to network with, hooking up with Oprah, you know, like all that sort of like relationships, you know, relationship stuff. So journaling, I have to do it every single day or I'll go crazy.
Okay. Journaling.
Journal.
If you didn't hear that, journaling.
Do it. Get a book. Go buy some journals, some pretty pens, and just do it every day. It's worth it.
Just do it. Just journal.
I know. Just do it. I know. We're all about the Nike stuff right now. I'm like, just do it.
Just journal.
Just journal.
That's gonna be the new slogan, right?
Just journal. Hashtag just journal.
Just journal. So, next question.
Okay.
What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
I mean, I'm not like a huge, gigantic reader. I mostly like to read like articles and like watch video clips of things. I feel I just retain more information that way. But some really good books. I mean, I'm trying to think like what's one that I like read recently that's like really good. I mean, a business one would be called The Coaching Habit, which is all about, you know, learning how to listen to other people. So that it's like you're more powerful when you're giving advice to a person. So the coaching habit would be, if anybody wants to do business, it doesn't matter whether you're a coach or not. I feel like it's just an amazing book for people to read to help them communicate better with people.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really great book.
Okay. Final question.
All right.
If you found out that you had 1 hour left to live and you were given the opportunity to share one final message, what would it be?
Wow, that would be really crazy. It's a crazy scenario. I think that it would be to just go and do what you want to do. Like, I think we spend so much time listening to what other people think, listening to what society thinks we should do, hiding. You know, when you're hiding your gifts, you are literally just being a disservice to the world by hiding those gifts that you have inside of you. You know, we have these gifts the universe gave us, that God gave us, whatever you want to call it. You know, we have these things inside of us, and we have them for a reason. And some people might think, oh, well, I don't have any gifts. It's just not true. Everybody does. I've never met a person where I'm not just completely fascinated by them. There was one time I was at a bar, and I was talking to this person, and I was just like, you need to write a book. And then 10 minutes later, I was talking to another person. I was like, you need to write a book. Like, it was like, all of these people have amazing stories, and they're just regular people. And I think that we all need to know that we have something inside of us. We just need to get it out of us and put it out into the world.
Right.
So that would be it, I think. It was kind of long, but yeah.
That's okay. It's words of wisdom. So
Awesome.
I want to thank you. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for doing this today.
You're welcome.
Please tell our audience where we can find you and find out what you're doing and keep up with you.
Yeah, so one of the best places I would say would be Instagram. I have been posting a lot more on Instagram lately. So if you just go to instagram.com/Kimra Luna, that's KIMRA LUNA. Also YouTube, same thing, youtube.com/Kimra Luna. Those are kind of the best two places to find me on social media. And then I do, of course, have a bunch of free business trainings and stuff on my website, freedomhackers.com. And I would love for you to come and join my community. It'd be great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
This was fun. So, there you have it, and we will make sure that we have the links and everything down under the video or under the podcast audio. And remember, in order for you to climb the ladder of success, you have to take the first step. Just make sure you don't step on other people while you're doing it, because it just might trip. So we want to thank Kimra again for coming and give her kudos. Yay!
Thank you guys so much for watching.
I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hugs, hugs.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.